All right, it looks like we're live. So it's Friday, May 27th, 2022. Monaco 64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I thought I'd try something different today, a live stream. And I'm starting at 10 o'clock London because that's the time I usually publish my video, around 10 o'clock, sometimes before or after. And we'll probably try to make this a long one so that it gives people the chance to come on. Um, I'm sure people are not expecting a live stream, but sometimes it's good to switch things around. And sometimes videos every day can get a little stale. So I thought I'd do something different. And as usual, I'm a little early. So we're going to wait for people to get on board. Yeah, Billy is here. We've been out already. It's a nice day today. It's relatively warm and sunny. Nice to see all of you here. Alan Zibelman, he's been waiting for a while. Got Rodolfo Rodriguez from Portland. John Norris, Gavin Hillebold, Andy Hughes. We got David Veach, Gavster Legrand, just seen St. Louis 9, Frank Peter, Epic Rising. So what we'll do today, we'll look at the story behind the title of my live stream, which is Blinken puts China and the dollar in the crosshairs. It seems a bit contradictory that Blinken is kind of putting China on notice, but I think he's putting indirectly the dollar on notice. That's why the title of the video or the live stream is that. Brian Buchanan wasn't expecting a live stream. You're right there, Mario. Yeah, I decided it this morning to do a live stream. There's quite a lot to talk about aside from the Chinese question and the U.S. Secretary of State's speech yesterday about China. We're going to look into the markets as we usually do, and I will share with you my page that I look at the markets, so you will see where I see the prices from, and I also think we need to look at the UK and the announcement by the Chancellor of the Exchequer for this new 15 billion package that's supposed to help bring down the cost of living, which seems really counterintuitive, and it is. Yeah, I will be taking questions as well from you. And we'll try to keep it going for as long as possible, as I said. Grow Mechanic is here. Hi, Grow Mechanic. Crypto Chris. Kart is here. Prashant Sharma. YouTube has blocked me. Can you see my comment? Yeah, we can see your comment. Simon Bevan is here. Hi, Simon. Gary Watt from Melbourne, Australia. So I guess I catch some of the people in Australia. It's evening there. They're coming on to the weekend quicker than we will. Conor McGregor, what do you think of the windfall tax? I think it's going to make things worse. It's going to be prejudicial for the UK economy. Foreign investors are gonna be discouraged, and when companies are taxed, how do they make up for the loss of revenue or loss of profits? Well, they will increase prices. So I think it's the completely wrong thing to do. It's all political. Graham Hobbs says got gold. Yeah, and silver as well. And physical, of course, because if you buy paper and keep it in the system, you're not really helping. So yeah, 10 o'clock. So we'll start. So yeah, the title of the live stream is Blinken puts China and the dollar in the crosshairs. So I'm going to bring up an article that came out, well, it came out late yesterday in the FT. And let's share it with you. So here we go. U.S. to retain focus on China as greatest threat to international order. Secretary of State accuses Beijing of becoming more repressive at home and more aggressive abroad. In a way, this is not surprising to me, and probably to a lot of you who have been listening to me and other people in the alternative space. We've been talking about this ever since the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine started, and all the sanctions and SWIFT blocking started against Russia. The fact that they froze like 400 billion of foreign reserves of Russia. That event, of course, started people like me and others speculating, well, China now must be really worried about its reserves, and we're going to come to that in a minute. But Blinken is an interesting character, and we're going to come to his background as well. Apparently, he was very pro the Iraq war, even though he's a Democrat. So let's go through this here. He says U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Washington will stay focused on China as the most serious threat to the international order, despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So the other thing as well, I think the West is realizing, or the U.S., they lost out big time in Afghanistan. They left Afghanistan in a mess. Now they try to defeat Russia, do regime change in Russia, and the Ukraine situation is unraveling. Even the Telegraph yesterday, there's one of their writers said, "Oh, what a shock! It looks like Russia will win after all." And even Henry Kissinger, who's known for being a bit of a warmonger, he actually said the other day that the best thing is for Ukraine to give up some territory to Russia, to be neutral, and that we have to stop this. So I think the U.S. is moving to another place, another conflict. This is going to make what's happening as a result of the Ukraine situation with commodities, especially. It's going to make it look like a picnic, I would say, if this actually goes through. And it's been a buildup. It's been a buildup. There's a lot of talk about the Solomon Islands as well, Taiwan. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it just goes to show that they're setting the world up for something. And what does that have to do with the dollar? Well, we're going to go over another article, which this is from the beginning of, I think, May. And I think I mentioned this in one of my videos when it came out, because I thought it was important in the same context that we're talking about today. This is not just putting China on notice by the US, or the neocons, but also putting the dollar, because it's going to accelerate even more this move from what people are now calling the global South into other ways of doing business outside the dollar system, the SWIFT system. So you see here, this is from May 1st. So almost a month ago, almost a month ago, beginning of May, China meets banks to discuss protecting assets from U.S. sanctions. Officials concerned that measures taken against Moscow could also be applied to Beijing. So, and I thought this was interesting. Senior regulators, including Yi Huiman, chairman of the China Securities Regulatory Commission, and Xiao Gang, who headed the CSRC from 2013-2016, asked bankers in attendance what could be done to protect the nation's overseas assets, especially its 3.2 trillion in foreign reserves. So there you go. I mean, this is the makeup of those. China holds 1.5 trillion in U.S. Treasury securities, long-term treasuries. There you go. And long-term agency bonds, which are the government-backed bonds like mortgage-backed securities. So it's a lot more than the few hundred billion that Russia has. Not to speak of all the supply chain, all the manufactured goods, all the trade that goes on with China. And is Blinken really that ignorant to not to realize that this will cause a huge problem? I don't think so. I think these people, they're pretty obsessed with power, and they don't care what happens to the general public in terms of cost of living, inflation, because they're at the top of the economic ladder of political influence, and they will reap a lot of benefits from a conflict with China, from a disruption of trade, investment, from more supply chain problems, from more higher cost of living crisis. And I'll show you why, in my opinion. Antony Blinken really just cares more about his wallet than anything else. So here we've got Antony Blinken on Wikipedia, and I thought this was interesting here. Private sector, WestExec Advisors in 2017. Blinken co-founded WestExec Advisors, a political strategy advising firm with Michel Flournoy, Sergio Aguirre, and Natin Chada. WestExec's clients have included Google's Jigsaw, Israeli artificial intelligence company Windward, surveillance drone manufacturer Shield AI, which signed a contract with the Air Force, and Fortune 500 types. According to Foreign Policy, the firm's clienteles include the defense industry, private equity firms, and hedge funds. Blinken received almost 1.2 million in compensation from at WestExec. I mean, it's a huge conflict of interest, and I mean, this says it all. The defense industry are his clients. So you create wars and conflicts around the world. Who's going to benefit? Well, Mr. Blinken and his WestExec Advisors, right? And others, of course. So I thought this was interesting. I'm going to stop now and see if you guys have any questions, because that's part of the fun of live streams, is being able to ask questions and also to see your questions. So just to let you know, I don't see all the comments that I have gone through. So I'm going to start with John Norris. Ukraine is done just a matter of a few weeks. Yes. Let's see. Any question? Oh, Gavin Hillebold. How long before the fall of the euro and breakup of the EU? Well, you know, people have been talking about that for years. I remember, excuse me. I remember during the sovereign debt crisis that started around 2011, and I was still working in the city. There were rumors that in Germany they were printing the old Deutschmarks, which they probably did, and they probably still have it for emergency. Yeah, so there has been talk a lot about the breakup of the euro, and it's still around. And actually, the euro has rebounded a little bit versus the dollar. The dollar looks to be going down now. So who knows? I wouldn't want to guess the breakup of the euro. We could have, theoretically, the euro remains like for countries like Germany, the Netherlands, maybe Finland, the northern countries, and then you could have the South Italy, Spain, Greece, or even Ireland, they go off and go back to their old legacy currencies. Who knows? Daz says BRICS nations loading up on gold. Many Western nations, including USA, have bugger all. Emerging markets, are you ready? Yes, Daz, that's an interesting point you bring up, because I saw the other day as well that I think it was the Chinese foreign minister, or quite a senior Chinese official, said that they're trying to get the BRICS countries into the fold of the Chinese sphere of influence. So because BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, like they're trying to expand the BRICS. And yes, Brazil last year bought a lot of gold. They increased their reserves by 60%. They know that they will need something to back their currency if they're going to trade directly with other people without using the dollar. And gold is a very important part of that. I mean, the only reason the dollar is still the major reserve currency is because it used to be tied to gold up until 71, and it was known to be as good as gold. It's just trading on reputation. But to build your reputation, you have to have something behind it. Stylus Vinyl, what will gold drop to in the next couple of months? I don't know. I don't know. Well, I look at it more in terms of the fiat currency. So you think fiat currencies are going to rise? Well, you could be right. But over the long term, and it's good you bring up that question about gold, because I actually have something to share with you guys, which came out about a week ago or a few days ago. This is from In Gold We Trust. It's from the guys in Liechtenstein, Incrementum AG, and they've been keeping a scorecard, or a scorecard, report card of gold's performance in the 21st century. So I've been saying since around here, since 2006, 2007, and I've shown you guys the articles, and I said at the time, fiat currencies are all sinking, including the dollar, against real money, gold. And look, you just have to look at the dollar since the beginning of the century. Gold has been up on average. So these are annual performances percentage. So 9.3% per annum since the beginning of the century. I think it's done quite well as a storehouse of value, gold in US dollars. And you look at it in euros, actually the euro has outperformed the dollar. And we're just talking about the euro collapsing, but actually the euro has done better than the dollar over the last 21 years or so, 9.1%. Sterling has underperformed. So if you'd bought gold in 2000, if you bought 100,000 pounds worth of gold, I mean, you'd have more than doubled your fiat holdings. Of course, you wouldn't have doubled your gold holdings because gold is just gold, but 10.7. So yes, last year wasn't a very good year for gold. You can see it was down 3.6 in dollars, down 2.6 in pounds. Actually, in euros, it was up. But yeah, in 2020, we had a big year, 25% up in dollars, 2019. So yes, gold might drop, as you say, in the next few months. But I look at it longer term. And I started stacking in 2002. So I'm glad I did. If I'd held, let's say 10,000 pounds and left it in the bank, those 10,000 pounds would not be buying as much today, but the gold is buying a lot more. So, and if you look at all the major currencies, I would say, so we've got the dollar, the euro, sterling, Aussie, Canadian, Chinese, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and the Indian rupee. I mean, on average, gold is up more than 9% every year for the last 21 years. So to say that gold is doesn't protect you against inflation is really, I don't think it's very factual. And you might say, oh, we didn't have inflation in those years. Oh, yes, we did. We've been having QE, we've been having lower rates. It's just that the inflation has been flowing into financial assets. And finally, now it's flowing into consumer and services. So hopefully that will answer your question there about gold. Let's have a look here. Music lover, is the windfall tax and generous grants just a backdoor way for the government to funnel money to the power companies and stop more going bankrupt? Well, a windfall tax will not help it's actually taking money from those power companies. It's actually going to hurt them. I think what the government is doing here is trying to placate the voters because this cost of living crisis is getting really bad, the inflation, and it's nothing to do with energy prices. It's all to do with inflation, which is a monetary phenomenon. It's to do with years of deficit spending by the government, with years of zero rates by the Bank of England and money printing. So they're trying to blame other people. But what I think this $15 billion pound package, is going to do, it's going to make the cost of living crisis even worse. People laugh because if you read some of the books, especially When Money Dies, about the Weimar hyperinflation, they thought back then that they needed to print more money to help the cost of living crisis in Weimar Germany. So they thought that the more money they printed, the worse, the better that they could cure the inflation. And we're doing the same thing, which is quite amazing that we haven't learned that. So I thought I wanted to share this story here in the mail, and I'll look at some other ones. So yeah, this is all political. So 15 billion pound giveaway, everyone, even the richest people in Britain are going to get 400 off their energy bills. And Sunak is saying that people who don't need it should give it to charity. I say if you get 400 pounds from, if you're in the UK and you get that, buy a sovereign, because it's going to get worse. So here's this woman, I have 12 pounds left. One-off payments won't work. And you go through all the different people, and they all are in this Keynesian paradigm. They all think that the government needs to do more. But the more government does, the worse it will get, because the government, they get the money from us. So we're just borrowing more. It's going to make the cost of living crisis worse. So here's Carol Ann Wilson. The interesting thing here, she says, in January this year, after all my bills, I had about 200 pounds a month left to get food and fuel or whatever. She said, now I've only got 12 pounds. So that's got nothing to do. Yes, energy prices have gone up and everything, food prices have gone up, but it's not that the energy companies or the supermarkets want to screw people, for lack of a better word. It's because all the money printing that we've seen. And just go through here. They're all saying we need a longer term plan from government. Some people are saying this needs to be longer term. They want universal basic income. this person here is saying it's only scratching the surface. So people actually want more, and they don't realize that it's going to create more problem. There isn't enough money, this person's saying. There's one guy here. This guy, at least, he says that government has to cut taxes to encourage business and investment. So there's one lonely guy there. But at the same time, he says government has been too slow to use some huge tools at its disposal. Government doesn't have any financial tools except taxing and inflating. And so unfortunately, this is not going to get better, the cost of living crisis, and they're doing all the wrong things. And I'll show you now why I think it's happening, the cost of living crisis. And I'm going to share another page with you guys. This is from Trading Economics. So this is a United Kingdom public sector total spending to GDP. So this is government spending. It's over 50% of GDP. It hasn't been this high since, I think this is sometime in the 50s. Probably, I can't go any further back, but this is probably the highest government spending since World War II. So this is why we have a cost of living crisis here. The government is crowding out the private sector. So by crowding out the private sector even more with this 15 billion package and taxes on the private companies, it's going to make things worse. So why do they do that? Don't they have people who can advise them about this? Well, it's all political, because they're scared of losing the next election, and they don't care about people, people in general. Yeah, that's the way it is, unfortunately. So back to your questions now a little bit. Yashir Hassan, Gonzalo Lira is predicting a total economic collapse of the West by the end of this year by the way of hyperinflation. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I've been warning about hyperinflation, and I know Gonzalo Lira wrote about hyperinflation on Zero Hedge over 10 years ago, and I agree with him. This kind of political fiscal spending by the UK government is just another symptom of the hyperinflation, the political uncertainty, the social division in countries as well. The geopolitical tensions with Russia, China, that's all pointing to not great things to come. And yeah, as for Europe, I agree with them, because there's a story here that Europe is preparing for Russia to cut gas supplies this year, and that we could have shortages and rationing. So there you go. Here's the story. And hyperinflation, because most people say, oh, the economies are doing so well. Yeah, but they're doing well because there's so much cheap credit. The US economy, I saw the other day someone interviewed, I think it was CNBC, or actually it was Real Visual Finance. They interviewed a guy called Ross Gerber, I think. He's in LA. He's the money manager. And they interviewed Peter Schiff, who's in Puerto Rico. And this guy Gerber said, oh, everything's great. Everyone's spending, going to restaurants and stuff. And Peter Schiff said, yes, but the economy is not doing well. It's not producing anything. Look at the record trade deficit. Look at the record budget deficits and the spending. So yeah, and we saw yesterday the preliminary number for GDP actually dropped by 1.5% for the first quarter in the US. So these economies are quickly unraveling, and here in the UK as well, and they're going to try to stimulate them even more. We saw in California, I think, the governor there is passed the 18 billion package, a little bit like Sunak. And yes, hyperinflation is actually a bit different than high inflation. It's when actually people realize the government and the central banks, they're not going to stop inflating the system, and they realize that it will never end, and they start getting rid of the currency. The demand for the currency collapses, and I think that's very possible. And things like this make it possible to these stupid moves by politicians who live in a bubble and don't know how the real world works. So that's the other thing I wanted to show you guys. So go back to the chat here. So we've been on for almost 30 minutes. We'll keep going, probably do an hour, so we can have other people join in if they haven't joined yet. Rod Panhard, is Germany being set up to be the fall guy for the collapse of the West? I think it's not just Germany, but also the United States. Germany, I guess, is the economic powerhouse in Europe, and the United States is the economic powerhouse of the West. I think the United States has been set up as well. It's not just Germany. And some people might say it's planned, and it could be, but I'm not here. I could go into all the conspiracy and everything, and I have in the past, but I think now it's getting so obvious that we need to try to protect ourselves and know that this is coming. Yes, these people could be, this could be part of a reset. They couldn't be making it look like it's a crisis that they couldn't avert, but they could be meeting actually, like the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans, the Germans. They could be doing this. This is just for public consumption is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, batten down the hatches, I say, and don't let it scare you. Hopefully, you have prepared mentally, spiritually, with your family, and financially as well, which is what I cover in this channel. Hopefully that has helped. And a lot of people have always asked, oh, what about if we have a hyperinflation? Isn't it good to have a lot of debt because it gets written off? Yes, it is. But on the way to the hyperinflation, through the kind of period we're going now, you might not be able to carry that debt. That's the problem. So I think the most important thing is to not to be a debtor or a lender in this situation. Shannon Wright says, thanks for the great channel. Please keep it up. Thank you again. Oh, you're welcome. I think someone is asking me a question here. Gavin Hillebold. Mario, how about doing an interview with Lawrence Reed? Yeah, I actually saw his interview with Silver Bullion, Patrick Vieira, yesterday, actually. And that website he has, Foundation for Economic Freedom, I've been following that website for years. I bought quite a few books from that website. I think he used to run laissez-faire-books.com. That doesn't exist anymore. I bought a lot of my books from there. Yeah, maybe I will do an interview with him. He knows what he's talking about. He knows a lot about the monetary history. Maria M., could it be possible that you post the link to the Zero Hedge about hyperinflation that you have mentioned? I would like to read it. I don't know if I can find that because it's from 2010 or 2011. I would Google Gonzalo Lira hyperinflation. I remember reading it because I've been following Zero Hedge for many years. I started following it when I was still working in the city. I'm not sure you can access it though. I tried it a couple of months ago, and I couldn't access it. Dan says the repo market has hit 2 trillion. Well, it's actually the reverse repo market. What does it mean? It just means that the banks, Wall Street banks, international banks have so much liquidity, and they have rules, capital buffer rules, balance sheet rules that they have to follow. And in order to be how can I say, in accordance with the rules, they need to get rid of that cash. Instead of lending it to the economy, they lend it to the Fed every night. So all it means is that it goes to show that the monetary policy is still really loose for the banks to have so much cash in hand, 2 trillion, that it's overflowing. So they have to put it with the Fed so they don't break rules. So that's all it means, that reverse repo, 2 trillion, that the monetary policy is still very loose. Yashir Hassan talking about the Japanese collapse, their debt to GDP approaching 300. How could they possibly repay the debt? Well, they are repaying the debt in cheaper yens, and I'll show you why. Against the ultimate, the ultimate currency, really, the ultimate store wealth, or the ultimate yardstick of value. And I'm going to show you what I mean here, how the Japanese are defaulting. And that's why holding yen is not really a good proposition, or any fiat currency for that matter. So I'm just bringing up a chart here in a second. This is how the Japanese are doing it, and this is how all other countries are going to be doing it. This is the price of gold in Japanese yen, as you can see. I think it was 40,000 back in the early 90s. So we've gone from 65,000 to over 250,000 recently. So that's how the Japanese are defaulting. The yen is losing value versus real money. So holders of yen are left holding the bag. We're told that Japan is in a deflation, that you need to hold the currency, but I would say you need to hold gold, not the Japanese yen. And it's going to be the same thing for all other fiat currencies. So that's how the Japanese do it. And yeah, if you want to be poor, get poorer, keep a hold of these fiat currencies. So now let's do the market market rundown, which I do every morning during the week. So here we go. This is where I get my information from. I'm sharing with you here on the live stream. So 27th of May, 10:35. So we've got spot gold, 1859. The high has been right around here, 1860. Low has been 1846. So we're up $8. Silver is finally catching a bid here. It had been trading around 22 the whole week. We're up 27 cents, or over 1.2%. But we still got a lot of time to go. I suspect, and this might not happen, who knows, but when the US starts to come in, the markets there, which is around midday London onwards, we should probably see silver come off. That's usually what they do. So we've got the Dow here. It's up 23 points, the futures. The NASDAQ is up 50, S&P up 10. So we had a big rally yesterday in the stock markets. I still think we're in a bear market. Just show you a chart. I mean, this doesn't look good. This is the daily, oh no, not the silver one, the NASDAQ. Yeah, this is the daily NASDAQ chart, just to give you an idea what we've been doing this year. That's the NASDAQ. So yeah, we could maybe rally for the next few weeks, maybe back up here. And I think we're going to keep doing these, like up and down, and a lot lower. So there's the FTSE down 8, Euro stocks. So the currencies, they look pretty steady. The pound is unchanged, 126. The euro, 107. And let's have a look at the euro. Yeah, people talking about the euro collapsing. The euro, I think when the euro started trading in the late 90s, I remember 1 euro bought less than $1. So if anything, over the last century, last 22 years, I'm sorry, the euro here you go. This is 2000. The euro dropped to 84 cents. So yeah, it's all relative. It looks like we held this important 103 level here right now in the euro. So this could be a bottom for the euro. It looks like the inverse of the dollar index, a top for the dollar index. 2/3 of the euro is dollar. 2/3 of the dollar index is euros anyway, or just under 2/3. Let's see. Yeah, the dollar is down 0.5% versus the yuan. We'll check the ruble in a minute. I know the Russian central bank cut rates yesterday, so the dollar strengthened a little bit. So we'll go to the other currencies that we look at. So here's the Aussie dollar. It's up 2/3, 71.40. The Canadian dollar, the dollar versus the Canadian. You always read in terms of the first ticker here, US dollar versus Canadian. That's down 1/4. And the Kiwi dollar is up just over 0.5%. And here's the commodities. I mean, crude oil, the commodities are continuing to go higher. Crude oil now is almost 115 WTI. Brent is 115.40. Copper is up 1%. Natural gas has come off a bit, but it's still relatively high. So that's it for the market so far. I just wanted to show you this commodity ETF. This I think it's the Bloomberg commodity ETF. So just to show you that, you see the markets, the Fed, all the central bankers, they think they're gonna help commodity prices go lower because they're going to stop. They're going to maybe create a recession. People are going to spend less. But the thing that they don't tell you is that the markets that have been in a bubble that have created the inflation have been stocks and bonds. Commodities are nowhere close to their 08 highs, and they still have a lot of room to go. So look at this, with all the tightening that the Fed and the other central banks are doing or talking about doing, we closed at a 2022 high yesterday in the Invesco Bloomberg Commodity Index. So the flow to hard assets is not going to stop. And we're going to get stagflation, and people are going to be shocked again, the Keynesians, that is. So let's look at the Russian ruble now before we get back to your questions. This is where I get the Russian ruble here. It's from netdania.com. So you see here, yeah, the dollar has rebounded quite a bit, but I think the ruble in the long term has done quite well. They've stabilized things, and they're able to cut rates yesterday, the Russian central bank. So this is where we went at the, this is beginning of the year when the war broke out in February, March. And ever since then, though, the dollar has been dropping. And this is because of the, how can I say, the cut in rates. I would say the key resistance now is going to be around 70 and 80. So we could see the ruble drop a bit further, but I don't think it means much. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. So you're actually seeing where I get my prices from. So I'll be going on for another 20 minutes now. And I'll just take your questions and wait for more people to get on. So, some of you probably weren't expecting a live stream today. I just thought I would switch things around. I'll still be doing my Sunday live stream at 9 p.m. Yashir Hassan, I agree with you. Keynesian economics is doomed to fail. I just wanted to show you as well a book that I'm reading right now. It's more to do with history. It's this one here, Dan Jones, Powers and Thrones, a new history of the Middle Ages. I love these kinds of books, and Dan Jones is a really great author. So it says here, the story of how the world we know today came to be built. So Powers and Thrones is a 1,000-year adventure that moves from the ruins of Rome, sacked by barbarians in 410 AD, to the first contacts between the old and new worlds in the late 15th century. During these 11 centuries, the roots of Western culture were put down. Great European nationalities were formed. Systems of law and governance were codified. Christian churches became powerful institutions. And art, architecture, philosophy, science went through periods of massive revolutionary change. This is a book written about and for an age of profound change. It asks the biggest questions about the world, both then and now. Where did we come from? What made us, and where do we go from here? So I just started reading it. I'm on page 100, as you can see. Highly recommend it. Gavin, you're welcome. He says, thank you kindly for your time and energy. You're welcome. Alex Marshall, anyone with a lot of debt will be wiped out. Yeah, and also anyone who's a big creditor to those debtors will be wiped out. Gregory KH, what's your golf handicap? Well, interesting you asked. It's not very good right now. You might think it is. It's 9, but for me, it's the highest it's been in about 40 years. For the last 40 years, I've been between like 3 and 6 or 7, and now it's ticked up a little bit. I haven't been playing that well. So yeah, it's 9 right now, which is a lot for me. But that's the way it is. I just have to keep playing and not worry about the handicap. Benevolent misanthropist, all the people knighted by Queen Elizabeth are scums of the earth. Why do you wish that for Mario? No, I wish Mario long and prosperous. Did someone say I should be knighted or something? Well, you know, historically, and that's going back hundreds or thousands of years, people that were given those honors, they deserved it. Nowadays, it's been diluted, just like our currency and everything else. It doesn't really mean much, does it? It seems to be the wrong people that get it. I'm not saying there aren't some worthy people that get honors. Graham Hobbs, are business bank accounts subject to, yes, they are subject to bail-in clauses, Graham. I remember really well during the Cyprus crisis that a lot of businesses lost all their, business that need to keep a lot of cash in the bank. They lost everything above 100,000 euros. At least in Cyprus, and I would say it's probably the same here. You'd need to check with your bank. Gavin Hillebold, yes, Mike and Mario show coming out. James Bernard, I would say for the 400 giveaway is kind of a direct QE to the public. they're saying they're gonna, yeah, in the end of the day, the government is going to be borrowing more to pay for that because it has to, because the government doesn't have any money. It's not running a surplus. So yeah, it's akin to QE. It's going to make things even worse. Aaron Levy says golf is hit and miss. Impossible to get a hole in one. Well, I've played since I was 15 in 1980. I started, and I've had 2 hole in ones. So they're difficult to get. Andy Hughes, can you get your head around Jim Rickards' money velocity argument, how inflation peaks as a result? I don't agree with him. Well, he's been saying that for years, that we weren't going to get inflation because money velocity is so low. And here we are with money velocity so low, but we still have rising prices. I'm not sure why he keeps going on about that. I think the reason velocity hasn't gone up is to do with the Fed's balance sheet. A lot of the, a lot of the after they started QE in 08, the commercial banks started getting a lot of excess reserves, and they parked that with the Fed, and that counts as money supply, and it counts. It's used in the equation to calculate money velocity. But I think the money that is in the economy with people, that's moving around. So he's been proven wrong, I have to say. I have interviewed him on the channel here, I think back in 2020. And he's saying now that the inflation is being created because of supply chain problems. But I beg to differ. Juan Wittenberry, in case of financial crash, how gold and silver mining stocks will perform in the MIF collapse. I don't know what a MIF collapse is, but greetings from Madrid. Well, I'm not sure we're going to get a financial crash. I think we're just going to have a long-term bear market in the general stock market. I don't think we're going to get a crash like in 2020 or 1929. And if you look at the 70s, the best performing stocks were mining stocks, oil stocks, commodity stocks in general. I know the junior miners haven't done well in the last few weeks or so, but they're still outperforming the general stock market. Shannon Wright, what do you do to keep your spirit in check during these times, at the same time as creating great YouTube content? My spirit in check. What do you mean by that? I mean, just try to avoid a lot, even though it's difficult, a lot of the noise, like political, socially, and like all the celebrity stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just try to keep my feet on the ground and focus. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not try to keep exposing, try to keep real. I don't know. I'm not really sure what you mean by keeping my spirit in check, but anyway. Rory Core, 1,539 pounds to buy a 1 ounce physical gold Britannia this morning, creeping downwards. Well, we started the year at 1340, I think, the price of gold in pounds. So, I mean, with what the government is doing, its fiscal policy with the Bank of England, I don't think that, rates are still only at 1%, and we've got inflation running at 10, I would say. So monetary policy is still really loose. So the inflation is going to continue. You're still borrowing, you're still getting paid 9% to borrow money. So people are going to keep borrowing, and the economy is shrinking, and it's going to make the supply of things goes down, and people spend. It's going to get worse, and that's why, yeah, I'm holding on to my gold and silver, and I'm trying to accumulate as much as possible. And yeah. Batman and Robin long-term gold outlook. Well, I'll show. I think I showed this earlier. I don't know if you were here on the live stream. So this is how gold is done in the major currencies since the year 2000. So yeah, there are years when gold goes down or the currencies go up, but in general, I think this is going to continue. Because there's no way out we're up, when the century started, we didn't have as much debt per GDP as we have now. We didn't have as much inflation or government spending. And now we're here and it's much worse. And I think it's going to continue. They're going to continue to inflate the system. So my view, long-term view for fiat currencies is lower. And that means that real money goes up. So it's not an investment. It's a way of holding money, I would say. And it's the best money or currency to have, because gold, it's not just money. Gold and silver are not just money, they're currencies as well. And you might say, oh, I can't use it to pay for food, but you could have someone who accepts gold and silver coins for payment. Port Film Co-op, thank you for your super chat. Was labor-backed currency a good idea? I know who you mean by that. I don't think much that this guy did was a good idea. So I don't know much about his labor-backed currency. So I would say no. Tech analysis on Bitcoin. Okay, let's bring the chart up. Let's see. Coin market cap. Bitcoin. All right. So I've got Billy has gotten up. He's sitting on the sofa now. Well, there you go. That's a long-term chart. I mean, we've been through this 30,000 earlier, but it seems to be holding it. I think if it doesn't get back above 30,000 and stay there for a considerable amount of time, I think we could go test this high from 2017, which is just around 20,000. So yeah, that's the way I see Bitcoin right now. And I think this trend line here from here, that's broken as well. So that's not a good sign. So yeah, I would be selling on rallies. I could be wrong. Sell Bitcoin on rallies, but I don't trade Bitcoin. But this seems like a magnet here, the 20,000 level. So we got another 5 minutes. Josh Report, are you looking for people like farmers who sell stuff for gold and silver? Not really, but I mean, the place I live is very close to farms, but I haven't really needed to do that. Our shops here in London, London area is still well stocked, but that could change. Pablo Pina, buenos dias, Pablo. Conor McGregor, do you think the BOE will continue to raise rates going forward? Yes, they will, but I don't think they won't do enough. They really need to raise it to like 12% to stop the inflation. And I think they're only going to raise it maybe to 1.5 or 2, maybe a little more. And that's not going to be enough. Mustache Man didn't have amazing economic results. um, well, you need to read books by what's his name? Anthony Sutton. The Mustache Man was financed by Wall Street after the crash in the 1930s. Yes, the German economy did well in the 30s because it was, coming out of a depression, hyperinflation. And he did a lot of public spending, motorways and autobahns, and a lot of military spending. But the economic results was the ruin of Germany in 1945. So there you go. It might have been good in the short term, but in the long term, it failed massively. Thanks for your super chat anyway. Nitro Burp, I noticed less vacation rental people in my area. Yeah, I showed this article from the Daily Mail earlier, and this lady said, well, she's retired in her 50s and she's ill. I guess she gets benefits, but she said she used to have 200 pounds left after her utilities and her rents and everything in January. And now she's only got like 12 pounds left. So you extrapolate that into the economy, and yeah, a lot of these discretionary spending, and I've said that for years, all the people that used to take maybe three holidays to go to Spain or Greece every year in the UK, they might only be taking one now, or maybe one every other year, and it's going to ripple through the whole economy. And you can see people even in that article in the how can I say, hospitality, they call it, hotel business or tourism. They're calling for the government to help them. But the more government helps, as I said, the worse it will get. Rolf Steiner says Rockefeller started funding the Austrian guy in 27. Yeah, I know. I mean, what's his name? Prescott Bush. And was it Avril Harriman? They financed the Germans. I mean, I think Standard Oil was doing business during World War II in Germany. They were selling, I think, diesel to the Germans. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? The Bank for International Settlements, they were doing business. The Germans, the French, the Italians, the British were doing business at the BIS in Basel during World War II. It's just it just goes to show that these wars are they really real? Are they really, or are they just staged? Mr. B is here. I'll keep going for a while. I'm sure there's still some people coming on. Billy wants to. You want to come and say hi to everyone? Here we go. There's Billy. Say hi, Billy. There you go. Billy, next week, he's getting his hair cut. So he's getting a bit bushy, as you can see. There he is. Get down. Yeah, Rolf, I bought that book recently, the Bolsheviks and Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution. I'm reading it. I'm reading loads of books at the same time. I need to finish one of them. I do that a lot. My wife gets annoyed with that because I've got books all over the place. Nitro Burp, that's a beautiful big boy. Yeah, he's great, Billy. He's going to be 14 in July. Butch Michael, my grandfather died in World War II only to have the same thing happen to his descendants. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult subject to talk about, the nature of wars, because everyone gets affected by it. And some people might be offended by what people say, what I just said about World War II and how they were all dealing with each other, the bankers from the warring nations. But unfortunately, that's the reality. And maybe if we talk about it, maybe people will learn from it and not fall for it the next time. Bankers' war upon Germany. Well, the bankers financed Germany. So was it really a war upon Germany? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. And Germany got a lot of the bankers' money after World War II. So there you go. This is a subject for another video, not for the channel here. But anyway. Daz, do you think the Belt and Road project is connected to current events? Yeah, I definitely think so, because and I think the NATO and the West are going to fail in containing the move to one belt, one road, because there are a lot of countries, even in Europe, who want to be part of it, like Italy, for example, and they're not going to be able to try to stop that. I actually think, and you might not think so, that the Chinese and the Russians, they're following the Dale Carnegie strategy of how to win friends and influence people, while the West is still using the stick strategy. You don't do as we tell you, we're going to hit you and stop you. And I think, yeah, I think my dad bought me that book when I was younger, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. And you might think it weird but look at the country that has invaded the most countries in the last 75 years. Is it really China and Russia? Is it Iran? I haven't seen Iran invade any country. No, it's the United States, it's Britain and NATO. There you go. Full name, did you know Chinese royals use Shih Tzus as bad warmers? Yeah, I know the story, and also the monks. I think the Buddhist monks, they used to have them in the temples, and they used to put them up their sleeves to keep them warm. And they were also sentinel dogs, because they had a guard dog outside, but if someone got through the guard dog, they would hear it and they start barking, and they're very good at that. Billy doesn't do that anymore because he's lost his vision, so he's really quiet now. Uh, psychedelicide Belt and Road is economics by progress as opposed to economics by force. I agree. All right. I'll stop here now. We've been going for over an hour. And yeah, hopefully this was a little different and than just the usual video in the morning. I thought I'd try this. And thank you, everyone, for showing up and participating. And yes, the next video will be the Mike and Mario show, which I'll publish it on my channel tomorrow morning. And then I'll have the Sunday live stream, and I might do a video in between, maybe Saturday evening or Sunday morning, who knows. So I wish you all a great weekend, and take care. Bye.